Well, hey, Classroom Crusaders. Carrie here. I missed you guys last week. I decided we had kind of I mean, how crazy can a weekend be? Let's be honest. But we had some stuff going on last weekend for Memorial Day, and there just wasn't enough time to kind of plan and get it all together for me to come on last week. And so I'm excited to be here this week. If you are live right now, just say hi to me. I would love to see who's on. And even if you're not live and you're watching this pre-recorded, or later on the recording, just put in there, just tell me where you are watching from. I love this group. I love to see kind of some of the interaction that goes on in this group, but I'd love to know where everybody's from. So put in where you are from, and I'm going to get myself together here. I'm super excited about this topic. I have done a lot of work on the topic I'm going to talk about in my career. And I, of course, wasn't doing it with around the notion of distance learning, but this is like a perfect strategy that I teach in the regular classroom to be brought into the online learning. So we're going to talk about something called focused instruction today. And so if you know, in fact, if you know the gradual release model, type in the comments or give me some hearts and just say gradual release model, yay, or yeah, I love gradual release, woohoo, okay? Make some comments. This book, if you know or don't know gradual release, but even if you know the gradual release model, this to me is the best book. Look, I have stickers on it. You could ever read on the topic. It's fast. You could read it in like literally an hour, maybe 2 hours. It's written by Fisher and Frey. Doug Fisher, I actually had the honor of being able to work with on some stuff and see him speak, and they are actual teachers that teach, and they publish lots of books. Every book they publish is well done. It is all about very practical advice, and about the concept of gradual release is gradually releasing the cognitive load from you to your students. Okay, so our goal as parents and as teachers is to raise independent adults, right? And so it's not enough. I say this all the time, Classroom Crusaders, to say, oh, I taught it, not my fault they didn't learn it. This is what we talk about with formative assessment. If you go back to any of my previous strategy sessions, you know I am like a stickler for good daily formative assessment. And so what we talk about, though, is really getting kids to own and learn and that student-driven classroom, right? But we can't get there just because we have good classroom management. We don't get there just because we're really good at teaching kindergarten. It's a very intentional process of releasing the cognitive responsibility from us as experts to them as experts. When we start a new unit, let's think about this. We're the experts in it, right? And they need to actually get into our thinking and into our knowledge base so that we can impart that knowledge into them, but then they can take it and they can use it. And eventually they're able to apply previously learned content and material to novel situations. And once they can do that, you know that you've done a nice job of releasing the cognitive load to them. But you have to be intentional about it. And so the gradual release of responsibility is that gradual release from me as expert to them as expert. And the very first way that they talk about doing that Fisher and Frey talk about doing that is, or one initial way, something that has to be done literally every day, is through focused instruction. And focused instruction is the I do of the gradual release model. So if you think about gradually releasing responsibility, we go from I do, me as the teacher, I do, to we do together, that's guided learning, to you do it together, to the students working collaboratively with me just as a coach. Look, see, we're gradually releasing responsibility. I take it first, we take it together, you take it together, and then you take it alone. Now, when it's not a linear thing, you can go back and forth, right? You can do formative assessments, or you do it alone, and you might throw in formative assessments throughout your gradual release. There may be times where students are doing a KWL chart together, maybe before they know, or think, pair, share. Could be guided learning that you do maybe even after independent work. So it's not like it has to be done in order, but focused instruction should be done really at the beginning of class every day. And so I have been coaching teachers on how to do, focused instruction every day. And what I've been realizing is, in all reality, there's very little interaction with your students during focused instruction. And I've coached teachers on how you manage a classroom when you're kind of the superstar. So this is how I talk about focused instruction. I always think about it like a cooking show. And so if you watch a cooking show, you know, and I think gradual release is very much like this. If you, excuse me, I'm going to cough. So I'm going to have a cup of my tea. Oh, you got to love it. Okay. Hang on. So I have water here too. So I'm going to probably have water and tea. Okay. Oh, live. Okay. So where was I? All right. So focused instruction. I think about a cooking show. If you're learning how to cook, think about a cooking show. The chef will talk through all of the things that they're doing and why they're doing it, right? They're not looking for audience participation. They're literally looking to share what's in their head. They are the expert. They are the chef. They are the one developing this recipe and starting to teach you how to do it. Now, here's the thing. After you watch a cooking show and a chef is going through it all, are you fully ready to just take on that and like cook for a restaurant with that level of instruction? No. But can you start the next step to be able to start to implement that meal? Sure, right? I mean, ideally, the next step would be you and the chef would work together with your other classmates maybe on cooking the meal together, right? And then maybe you and your classmates work on the meal on your own with the chef just sort of watching over you. And then the ideal, right, if you really know, is that you might be able to take the concepts that you learned and apply it to a new recipe that you come up with. That's the gradual release of responsibility. So right now we're going to talk about focused instruction. And what I love about it is because we can watch a cooking show and that's focused instruction. The cook does not have to be right here. We can watch a video of it. And I think that, yes, being up in front of your class, school, your students is powerful, and being able to do that and ensuring that they're focused and kind of noticing that they're with you is powerful. But I also think there's a lot of power in recording this for a few reasons. One, if you're doing distance learning, then obviously you don't have to go live all the time. This might be a good opportunity for you to record some lessons, and doing it through the strategies that I'm going to teach you today. I don't know what's wrong with me. You're going to make the most out of this time. But this is where I love it. I actually think that even if you are working with your students in person, that what you have learned should not go out the window. There's this hybrid version of your classroom that I think could be really powerful. So think about it. Let's say you have a do now, and go back to one of my lessons on what a do now is, and you have a formative assessment at the beginning to see what kids know walking into your class, and you see that a couple kids just didn't remember what you did yesterday. Well, you might have your focused instruction lesson recorded. And so you can take those 3 kids that maybe didn't get it and let them listen to your 5-minute focused instruction lesson, with headphones on, while you're working with the other kids to get them moving. And now that's you duplicating yourself, and an amazing way to be able to re-explain something to students that didn't get something, but literally not be there. That to me is scalability. That's how you scale. And if you're going to do some hybrid version of some, staggering students in your classroom at different times, then you should absolutely record yourself, because otherwise you're going to be doing the same lesson over and over again. If you're, staggering kids, or some kids are going to be home and some kids are going to be in your classroom, then recording your lesson, I think, is really powerful. So let's talk about what a good focused instruction lesson is. You should have focused instruction every day, because every day kids are learning. And you might not go into a whole big focused instruction, like I'm going to show you all the components of it right now, but there will always be 2 pieces of focused instruction you will use all the time, every single day. So focused instruction is the I do. Maybe you don't need to do the full I do, depending on where you are in the unit, but you will always do these first 2 things. Always, always, every single day. Okay. Whether you are in person or recorded, or you can even write this down if you're like doing a Google Classroom thing, but I think recording it is the most powerful. So first is the objective. And I don't love that word because we think of like I can statements, and fine, I can statements are one thing, but how do we tell kids what they are going to learn today in a language and in a way that they will understand? I just having kids repeat the I can statement is not telling them really in their words and their language what they're learning. So every focused instruction should start with the objective that is totally relevant to them, okay? That they can understand. And why. So it's the what and the why. Always, always why. Why are we learning this today? Why should third graders in middle of America, Indiana, wherever you teach, learn this topic today? Why is it important to them? And it can't just be to get a good grade on a test. What is the reason why they need to learn it? Every one of us learns with purpose. I want to say to you all, so many teachers I talk to say they taught themselves so much online learning, right? You guys dug in. I mean, if you had a PD, let's be real. If you had a PD at online learning because you knew the district was going in that direction at some point, I have run many a PD where I've got teachers like, what's she gonna say now, right? You were all digging in because it was super relevant to your lives in the moment back in March, right? You guys did more PD on your own than you've probably ever done. You probably learned more in 7 days than you did in 7 years of teaching, because it was meaningful and relevant. So that's very, very important when it comes to focused instruction. Making sure that when you're about to give your cooking lesson to your students, think about a chef. They say what they're gonna cook and why are they cooking it. They might say, it might be November and it's like their favorite fall recipe and it reminds them of their grandmother's kitchen. And it's super simple and it's ingredients you can have in the house. And when you have this meal, oh my gosh, when like you are literally going to be the most popular person on the block when you have this meal for a, fall gathering, whatever it is. They give you the what are we going to cook and why are we going to cook it? You are too. You are a chef explaining what the recipe is and why you're cooking it. And it's got to be relevant to them. So that should take place every single day. So if you're standing in front of your students, this is what we're learning, this is why we're going to learn it, and this is what we're going to do to learn it. Now, if we move forward and say, okay, I am now going to provide scholars information, or students or scholars, whatever you call your students, how to process new content. So let's say now we are now introducing new content. If you weren't introducing new content, all you have to do is your what and your why. If you're introducing new content now, then we really need to get it. Now, I want to keep this in mind for you. Focused instruction should only be about 15 minutes or less. And you can use age as a range. So if you have 5-year-olds, think about they're 5, and then you can add 2 minutes. So your focused instruction should be no more than 7 minutes. If you have, 16-year-olds, it's not 18 minutes, it caps at 15. Okay. So that's what Fisher and Frey say really is important. Keep it no more than 15 minutes, which is what I need to do for you today, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. Okay. So you're always looking at the objective and making sure that you're crafting it in a way that they understand, and your purpose. Super, super important. Now, as I want you to think about a chef, as you are recording your lessons or standing up in front of people, you are recording what you're cooking, why you're cooking it, and how you're doing it, and what you're thinking. So this is what's so important. Your kids need to be able to get into your brain. So let's think you're doing math, right? And you start doing it up on the board, okay? And you pull up your whiteboard online and you start doing it. If you just start saying, okay, 2 + 2, and you write out 4, and then you draw a picture of 4 circles, and you just start doing without explaining and without getting them into your brain, it's going to be lost on them. And so this is how you do it. You do what we call a think aloud. A lot of elementary school teachers know what think alouds are, right? Where you're actually literally thinking out loud. I want you, if you're a middle school teacher or a high school teacher, to do this too. This is not beneath you. This is not too young for your students. Trust me, I have coached from pre-K to grade 12, and I see this work everywhere really effectively. So let's say I go to my 2 + 2. So I see a 2 on the page. And so I think, okay, I know that's a number 2. And then I see this plus sign here. And so I know, because Ms. Lipoli taught us, that a plus sign means add. So I know I'm not going to take anything away. I'm going to add. So I know I have a number 2, and I'm thinking, okay, I have to add something to 2. And I look underneath, and what do I see? I see another number 2. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm thinking out loud. I'm not just going through the motions. I'm explaining instead of telling. There is a big difference there. So let's talk about, I don't know, high school chemistry. I don't even know why I just said that out loud, because I don't even think I could give you guys an example of that. But let's just say you're looking at the periodic table of elements. I'm going to go back to high school. And I was looking for something on there. I don't even know what I would be looking for, but let's just say that I'm looking for something. If you're a chemistry teacher, tell me something that you could be explaining. And then I'm going through my process. What's so interesting, when I would coach teachers with a walkie, I'd be like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? So just picture me in your ear when you're doing a think aloud saying, why? Because when you think out loud and truly break down what you're doing in steps, your students are going to start to understand what they need to do, just like a chef. So if a chef says, I'm using butter, clarified butter, instead of olive oil, because I think that it gives it a much better flavor and it will, adhere to the food that I'm cooking better. Okay, now I understand. Instead of, if they just said, I'm using clarified butter, and they didn't give you the rest of it, you wouldn't know what they're thinking. Or let's say they're starting to cut vegetables and they're saying, so before I start cutting the vegetables, I know that because I need my carrots to be crunchy, that I'm going to cut them bigger and not slice them really thin. Because if I slice them really thin, they're going to get soggy very quickly. So I'm going to cut my carrots thicker so they aren't. Let me tell you, it's stuff you take for granted in your own thought process, but kids don't. Because remember, you're the expert in this. So it's about thinking through all of those pieces and just saying them out loud. I train teachers to script them out, and it's shocking. Have you ever done the activity where it's like you have to write out all the steps for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you realize how many steps there actually are, and how, like, if you're not very specific about wrap your hand around the knife, pick up the knife, and doing all those things, then you realize how ill-informed a student may be if you're missing out big pieces. So that is the key to doing focused instruction effectively, is that you are really thinking out loud. And so if you can do this in 7 minutes and you can show your screen, think about what an amazing reteaching opportunity this is, or a regular focused instruction, right? You could save a ton of time. You could even have kids walk into your classroom, say, okay, I want you to listen to focused instruction, and then get started on your journal prompt. That could be a great way to start a class, right? So I want you to be thinking about the fact that the skills that you know in online learning and the concept of gradual release model and focused instruction, it just marries itself so well to pre-recorded lessons, so that you can differentiate, so that you can meet this hybrid model that a lot of you are going to be doing, and it could be a really powerful way. So here's what I want you to do. I want to hear what you're thinking. I want you to put comments in what you're taking away from this. And if you do any pre-recorded lessons about a topic, a grade level, share them in this group. You guys, this group is really about you guys supporting each other in this crazy journey that you're in. So if you can, and you share, this is my focus instruction, and me, and I have a bunch of colleagues in this group too, we'll give you feedback on it too. So put it up there and we'll let you know how it is. Make sure at the end of focused instruction, however, always, and this is the gradual release model, you go from I do to maybe we do it together. Maybe that's your next thing. There's a bridge in there. There's a transition in there, right? I always say that transition needs a bridge, and that bridge is formative assessment. So maybe after focused instruction, before you do your next thing, so kids can start applying their learning, they can start gradually releasing the expertise from you to them, that you do some sort of quick formative assessment. Maybe it's a stop and jot. Maybe it's, you could do that on Post-it notes. You could do it in a chat. Maybe it's a quick 60-second check-in where they're doing response cards or whiteboards, or maybe you're just going and asking questions. Maybe they have a piece of paper with a couple questions on it that you're asking them, but you're doing something to make sure that they got what you wanted them to get out of that focus instruction lesson. It is not enough for you just to share with them your recipe and why you cooked it and how you're cooking it and getting them into your thinking. You need to know that they understood the main idea that you wanted them to understand. And so how are you going to do that? So never leave your focus instruction without a bridge of formative assessment to the next thing. So that's what I have for you today. Went a little longer than I wanted it to, but I hope that that's helpful. I'm very passionate about this. Summer reading, you guys, if you do not have this book, get this book. And then the next book I really love afterwards is all about formative assessment. It marries itself, but this one, Better Learning Through Structured Teaching. This book is like so damaged. You probably can't even tell. I got it wet. I have so many sticky notes in it. I have that picture of Doug Fisher in me, and it's like my little celebrity crush because he's so good. And I usually keep it in the book. I'm wondering where it is. It's not in here. It might have fallen out. Anyway, I hope that you took a lot from this. Post your takeaways and your formative assessment pre-recorded lessons. I'd love to see them. All right, you guys, have an awesome